Welcome back to the Glowing Mama Method podcast, where we discuss healthy and sustainable weight loss for women over 40. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Kim Rogers, aka the Worm Queen. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm so glad to have you here. You came on my radar when I was looking into parasite cleansing as another step, kind of like another layer that I was peeling off of my health optimization journey. And everyone was saying, you gotta find Mrs. Rogers. She's the one you want. And so I did the Parasite cleanse. It was a tough one for me. And so today I want to hear kind of about how did you get started into all of this, and just to learn more about parasite cleansing, top tips, do's and don'ts, and how we can utilize this tool in our kind of overall health optimization toolkit.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm excited to talk about all these things with your community because it is really important that we start to kind of integrate parasite cleansing into our bodies. I mean, other countries do deworm. And so they've been on this train for a while, but we're in Western medicine, so it's a little bit of a less optimal type of topic, and it's very taboo. So I'm glad that I'm able to actually like give my knowledge on all of this. So basically, I got started because I was very ill. I showed you a picture earlier, and I was very overweight. I was very inflamed. And in 2019, my husband and I decided to pack our life up like a normal. We had a house, we both had careers because my health was declining so rapidly. And we couldn't figure out why. I come from Western medicine. I've been in Western medicine since 2004. I hold two healthcare degrees. I ran 25 healthcare colleges. I worked in the field. I wrote and authored books. I was a subject matter expert in the medical field, and I served on advisory boards. So I do know Western medicine and the human body, and I love it. And so when my health started declining, I had stage 4 endometriosis, and I had a hysterectomy when I was 29, and I had 13 surgeries because of endometriosis. So in 2019, when my health started to rapidly decline, and we could not have any more surgeries. I mean, my surgeons were like, you've reached your max. And I'm like, but my body's still failing. Something's still going on with me. And I'd like to know what else it could be because obviously it's not just endometriosis. And I can't have any more surgery. So you're basically telling me that I have to live this way the rest of my life and I'm 40. That's basically what I'm being told. And they were like, yep, that's right. And I said, that's just not acceptable to me. So my husband and I started to dig. We literally like sold our life, moved out to our recreational property where we started to build our own log home. And we were in a travel trailer on the property to not have a mortgage. I didn't want to leave my husband with mortgage and debt. So I decided to just wrap us all up and move us out there. It's just me and him. And we just started figuring things out. Like I was on a lot of medication. So I started to take myself slowly off meds, but supplementing it with herbs. And about a year and a half in, I was doing pretty good. It's why I love mushrooms because mushrooms help save my brain. I learned a lot about herbs, how to make tinctures in that time frame. And I just wasn't at the optimal level I wanted to be. And so I was scrolling on TikTok with purpose. I always do that. I always am looking at like new ideas and stuff. And this girl's TikTok popped up and said, I can't believe I almost unalive myself over worms. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I thought a few years before I had worms. And my doctors said, there's no way you have worms. We're in a first world country. That's impossible. And I said, I always have flares during full moons. I have major itchy butt, which is TMI, but I do. Not anymore. I was super constipated. I didn't go poop for almost a month. I couldn't even process how to get it out. Like, things were not good and they just kept going, "Oh, it's fine. It's fine." I would drink a glass of water and I would bloat like I was 9 months pregnant. And I'm like, "These are all things that could be, nope, nope, that's not it, Kim." And so when I saw that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I tried to figure out years ago what to take, and this girl's holding up another company's Parasite Cleanse." And I'm like, ordered, right? So I'm 3 days into that particular Parasite Cleanse, and I dropped roundworm, pinworm, and flukes in the toilet in 3 days.
Wow.
And I went on my account and I did a 60-second video, and I just basically said I've been in Western medicine for over 18 years and I've never dewormed myself until now. And they came out my skin, they came out my urine, they came out my stool. Like they are escaping. Just the little amount that I had taken in those 3 days, those parasites were like, what? And I did it kind of near the full moon. So there was a lot of like variables that were going on, and it went viral. My video, there was 1 million people that watched it in 2 hours. And I knew there was something in those moments.
And how was your diet leading up to this place? Like, did you have any awareness when you were going through all these surgeries and health issues? Were you trying to make dietary changes, health changes? Like, what was in the background as you were dealing with these things?
I did do some changes in that year and a half, and I had lost some weight without even doing any cleansing. Um, so there were some changes that I made, but not a lot of changes. And nutrition is just not something that we really discussed a lot of. Even as a professor and wrote the curriculum, I did leave a lot of that out. And I talk about that often because it's just not something that we're taught in healthcare and in the medical world. It's just like, oh, you should just know that, or it doesn't really matter if you make these changes or not, take this instead, right? And so I remember when I was writing the nutritional side of the curriculum for allied health people, I would just say, let's do presentations, let's go over it. But it was never really an in-depth conversation that we had. And it was only a few pages in the actual healthcare books. So as a medical professional, I'll have to say that I just did not do the nutritional changes like I should have. But that's where 2019, when I started to really look at my health, I started to go to like the blood type diet, and I did see, oh my gosh, I was eating all the wrong things for just my specific body. And I do an 80-20 now with my life. I do my best for all of the things we're going to talk about, because it's not a fear mongering thing when you hear me talk about this. It really is we just need to know. We should be learning this stuff in high school, right? This should be like a class that we should know how to take care of our bodies. So, and that includes the nutritional part, which now I see is just huge. And my husband and I are huge. We are very careful what we put in our bodies now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because from my perspective as a coach, I'm helping people to kind of get that nutritional foundation before I would send them into a parasite cleanse. Would you say that that's important, or would you lead with a parasite cleanse and do it concurrently?
So my opinion on that is probably a little different than a few other people, and it's only because of my own personal experience. I had made some changes, but after parasite cleansing, I made the most changes. I craved whole foods. I craved produce. I craved those really healthy, next level organic foods. I craved them. Before I didn't, because they're in our blood, our tissue, and our muscle, and they control your thoughts. Specifically for food, candida is sugar, roundworm is sugar and salt. Like they make you crave it. So if you're unable to suppress them in order for you to make those changes, my opinion is I would rather go into a parasite cleanse than to and see how the changes happen, because we're a tincture. So Parify, which is my particular cleanse from doing all of this research, and I created my own. I have my own business now because of it. And so I noticed that as soon as I started doing the cleanses, my whole thought process and my whole relationship with food immediately changed. It's like I went in and I snuffed out the toxins that were controlling because they're their own frequency. So I snuffed it out, and then I was able to kind of regain control over my thoughts when it came to food. And so I incorporated a lot of those herbs into the Parafy kit. And that's why I did what I did, because I struggled and have struggled most of my life with food. I actually had an eating disorder. And so I've always struggled with food noise and all of the food issues that a lot
Mhm.
of people struggle with. And so when I started doing this, I realized immediately, because I was taking tinctures, that it like changed my taste buds almost the moment I took the tinctures. I was like, I'm not really craving the ice cream that I was craving 30 minutes ago. So it really helps with that, because it kind of, the frequency of the herb comes in and smashes the frequency of that craving, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good point, right? Like, it's all well and good for me to say, like, we should really start with an elimination diet, take out all the like allergenic foods, all the inflammatory foods. But if someone isn't actually able to do that because their
Mhm.
brain is essentially being controlled by living organisms in their system, then it might be better to lead with a parasite cleanse in that case.
Or do it simultaneously.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I did it simultaneously. I was already on the trajectory of changing my food, but then I'll tell you the reason why usnea is in there, and we talked a little bit about this, is because while I was cleansing, usnea is an herb that's in the Parafy kit, but while I was cleansing, I don't eat hamburgers and ice cream, and I ate them 4 times the first week I cleansed. And it's because they want to eat that food, and that gives them strength, and we're trying to weaken them. So I brought in an herb that helps curb your appetite, reduce the inflammation, and change the food noise while you're doing the cleanse. So, in my opinion, do I think that it is really important to follow the cookbook, follow that Candida diet, and follow it right at the gate? No, because it really is going to change your whole thought about food and your weight, and you're not going to feel hungry a lot of times. But man, I gained like 10 pounds like that first week that I cleansed, because I'm like eating ice cream, and I looked at my husband, I go, I want hamburgers again. And he's like, you never eat like this. And my niece was there, so I just kept blaming it on my niece. Like, oh, it's because my niece is here visiting and hanging out. No, that wasn't it at all. Because then the next week I was like, I don't want to eat any of this. Like, that's so gross. Why did I do that? And then I started researching why. Because I don't come from this world. My degrees are in like healthcare, phlebotomy, labs, ER. Like, it's not in parasitology, you know?
So is it kind of like die off symptoms? Would you say that that's what was happening, why you were craving all of these foods? Because the parasites were feeling threatened, so they increased the cravings before they dissipated?
Yeah, it would be giving them the strength. It gives them that strength to continue to fight against the herbs that you put in your body that's making your body inhospitable. They're like, "Oh no. No, you just gave them like a long sword, right, to fight back with when you're eating the yucky food." And it sounds wild that they can control your mind, but I can give like a couple of examples of parasites that people are very familiar with that actually do control your mind, because they are their own frequency. And I think that that's what's so weird for people, to think that you can have living things inside your living body, but you do. And something like Toxoplasmosis gondii, which is the cat parasite, which a lot of us know as women, you shouldn't scoop cat poop. And that's why, because cats can carry toxoplasmosis. And toxoplasmosis comes from a mouse or a rat, and it can brainwash that mouse to go cuddle up with the cat, because one, it's sexually attracted to the cat's urine. And two, the next stage of toxo is inside of a cat's gut. There's an enzyme. So it controls the mind of the mouse to go and hang out with that cat. And that's how controlling parasites can be, in order for them to get to that next host. the next better host, and we are the best host. So ultimately, their main goal is to get to us, but we're not going to go hang out with a mouse, right? So it knows, it's smart, and it knows you got to go through these stages, and then you got to go through the next stage to get to the actual Toxoplasmosis gondii inside the cat's gut. Then the cat goes poop, you scoop it, and bam, it's airborne. You don't wash your hands. The cat steps in the poop and walks through your house. Like, there's so many different ways to catch a microscopic parasite. And so it just shows you how it can control you.
So that was my next question. Like, how do we get these parasites in the first place? Because a lot of people think it's like you got it in Mexico from bad meat that was sitting in the sun, but it can literally come off of like a strawberry or cat litter. How are we getting them, and can we avoid them, or is it just something that we need to constantly be cleansing?
There's no way to avoid them. This is normal. This is Mother Nature. They're doing something in your body that is breaking down. They're decomposers. That's the whole purpose of a parasite, is to decompose so that we don't have, stacks of garbage everywhere. And that's their job. But unfortunately, in the society we live in right now, we're sedentary and we eat bad. And so really this is becoming somewhat of an epidemic if it hasn't. I believe it is a bigger epidemic than what is talked about, because in order for you to get an accurate number, which the CDC says 60 million people in the United States have parasites, but that's just documented and we don't have good testing. So, so I really believe that there's a lot more than that. And it's so easy to catch a parasite. Pets are, in my opinion, a number one way to catch a parasite. They're outside, they're licking themselves, they're eating other dogs' poo, they're walking, barefoot, right? And they're in the dirt. And so parasites are in the dirt, and they're drinking out of puddles. So and you can't see them when they lay in bed with us and they lick us. You can't see these microscopic parasites. So I believe that a large way that we're catching them is through our pets. And now you just need to deworm your dog. We deworm our animals, we deworm ourselves. That's really the habit we should be getting in. Salmon is a huge culprit of catching a parasite. They say that like 1 square inch of salmon can hold up to 10,000 parasite eggs. So
Cooked
raw,
salmon too, like.
raw, right? Like, because anything raw and especially if you're out of the country, I say out of the country, but honestly, I don't eat raw in our country because our water's contaminated a lot too. So really hearing all of these things like, well, what should I do? You should just cleanse. Like, we should be in the habit, like other countries are in the habit of deworming and cleansing their bodies. So we just aren't in the know. And Mexico deworms, Jamaica deworms, Korea deworms. Like, other countries specifically use herbs like what we're using in the Parafite kit to remove the worms out of their body and make their body inhospitable going forward so that they don't want to stay in you.
So it's not necessarily like, because I think one thing people need to wrap their heads around is our body is not a sterile environment, nor should
Mhm.
it be. So there's a fine line between having parasites, which it sounds like you're saying there's some positive to it, right? They're decomposers, they're eating up things, bacteria and such. So that can be a positive. But I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if it's overgrown, if they take over the system, that's where problems will arise. Yes?
I don't think we should have them.
At
I do
all?
not
Like
think we
zero
should have them
parasites?
in our bodies at all. I do not think we should have them. I'm I want people to know that there is a purpose in the earth, but not in our bodies. We should not be having parasites. I do know that side of why we should have them, that there's like a 50-50 in the parasite community, and it's
Mhm.
because parasites can hold 6 to 8 times their weight in heavy metals, bacteria, viruses, and spores. So they're absorbing these things so they don't go into your bloodstream. The problem with that is they harbor those. So if you eat something like pineapple juice and you don't bind, guess what's getting dumped into your body the minute that you kill them off? And you're not using an herb like cilantro to sweep out the heavy metals they're about to dump. And I know because I never tested positive for Epstein-Barr virus until after I parasite cleansed. That means that whatever was holding on to that virus in my body, I did not bind. I did not use the correct herbs like usnea, and it just dumped into my body, creating a bigger ecosystem going on in my body. Spores were dumped. Viruses I had never had in my life were dumped. So I believe that they're doing their job in a lot of ways, but once they're in our bodies, we don't want the heavy metals, we don't want those viruses, and we don't want those bacterias. And if you are actively cleansing it out and doing it correctly, you're not going to have those problems. Unfortunately, if you don't do it correctly, which a lot of that theory says, oh, we need them. But if you watch, I did a pineapple video where I show pineapple juice and worms under a microscope, and it shows what the pineapple juice does with the parasite itself, but it doesn't talk about how that parasite was also holding on to spores that needed to be binded in order for him to go out of your body.
Right.
So if that makes sense, I just don't want people to think that parasites are all villains. They're not. They're doing their job. So there's something in your body that they're decomposing, right? So that's your root cause, what's going on to have them stay in there.
So you wouldn't just want to go and start taking like anti-parasitic herbs. Like you really got to do this properly and make sure that you are taking a binder to help move these things out. And what
Yes.
really drew me to your specific Parafy program is that it's very simple, right? Like it's three tinctures. I don't know if it's changed since I took it last. Three tinctures and a binder. And it has all of the herbs in the perfect quantities. Like I didn't have to do any thinking. I just had to remember to take specific tinctures at certain times of the day, and the rest like is it's done for you. You don't have to, because you could go and create like a parasite cleanse on your own. Just go and get some wormwood or go get some, figure out what the herbs are that you need to parasite cleanse. But yours is just kind of like packaged up in a really beautiful way. And also your cleanse, it's parasites, candida, and heavy metals all in one, right?
And the binder.
And the binder. And so what made you decide to put all three of those things together rather than just having separate cleanses for different things?
Because you need to do all of that at once. You need to come in with the parasites, alleviate them that are going to dump the heavy metals, that are going to disrupt the candida, that's going to be somewhat uncomfortable at times. So I added white willow bark to help curb your appetite, to help with allowing small intestinal parasites to be alleviated with Oregon grapefruit with the inflammation, to support your liver while it's going on. So I brought dandelion root in to go in and accurately target tapeworms, because 3 out of 5 people have a tapeworm, and I was seeing a ton of tapeworm 4 years ago when I started doing this. So I added hawthorn berry. It also helps with heart health. You have to go into a kill and support herb world. You can't just go into a kill, kill, kill. And that's what me and my husband did. And it was really bad. And I did it all on film. So all my terrible die-offs, my face, I had them coming out. My exit point, we talked about exit points, mine's skin. They love to come out of my skin. And I woke up one day and I had something moving in my neck. And I was like, this is too much. Like, what am I doing here that is making this happen? And then I would go to my comments and would be like, you got to bind, Kim. And I'm all, what's binding? Western medicine, when you give someone charcoal, it's in a large amount to stop them from overdosing and alcohol poisoning. It is not a microdose of charcoal to help bind like a magnet and pull things out. Like, I had no idea. So my husband, they were coming out his skin, they were coming out my skin. I mean, we were making our bodies so inhospitable, but we also weren't binding them and having them exit correctly. So that's really, I created the kit because I wanted people to do this the right way and not go through what my husband and I went through. And I made it easy enough that he would take it, because it started getting complicated. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, you're gonna deworm, Jeremy.
If it's the last thing you do, you're.
I looked at him, I'm like, I'm doing this, you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, that's another good point, right? Like if you're doing a parasite cleanse and then you're like, intimate with a partner,
Yeah.
you're just spinning your wheels, for lack of a better term, right?
A lot, yes. And I get a lot of that question, like if they're not going to do it, should I still do it? Absolutely, you still should protect yourself. But what I know was going on with me and Jeremy was that I had crypto spuridium parvium, which is parvo, which kills puppies, which is why I was so sick and I was so inflamed because it was shutting my organs down. And I have chronic Lyme. So the combination of those two were really like my body was like, oh my God, get me out of here, right? My soul was like, oh, this body is a goner. And so, but for him, he had D. fragilis and I didn't have that. And so we had to pause because even though we weren't swapping that around, there's a possibility that we could have. And then I would have crypto and D. fragilis, and he could have crypto and D. fragilis. And I didn't test positive for roundworm at that time, and he did. So that meant I got mine under control. But if we did anything, I could catch it. And because everything, we all share the same microbiome in our households. Even with our animals, we share the same. So
Now, should you be testing before you do a parasite cleanse to see all of these, different versions of parasites that we might have? Or is it okay to just jump in and do a cleanse?
yep, you just want to go and do it. There's a few reasons why. One, the testing is not always accurate, and not just the testing from Western medicine, but they're stealthy, they're evaders. They can go without being detected because they're a live frequency in our bodies. They know. It's wild. And we'll go back to the testing, but I don't want to lose my thought. I have people that come around me, specifically my best friend Sam. She's my co-host for my podcast, What's Eating You. And her exit point, by the way, is her nose. She blows them out her nose. And every time she's around me, it's a frequency that I have, and she will pass a worm every single time she's around me. She passes a worm. It might not just be her nose, but every time. It's wild. There's a frequency. And then my really good friend Kathy, she was like, Kim, my stomach was upset after I met you. And I'm like, oh my God, girl, no one's going to ever want to hang out with me.
So when you speak of frequencies, my brain wants to go to sound.
It's
So
the
can
same.
we use sound therapy to heal from parasites? Does it, or like, can it be, I guess, a tool alongside the parasite cleansing? Or could you just like, I don't want to take these herbs, I don't want to do anything, but I will play a frequency to make my body inhospitable? Like, would that work?
It's just a tool, and there's actually an app. It's called Z-APP, so Z app, and it has thousands of parasite frequencies. You can also go on YouTube, and you can go on my account. You can type in Worm Queen frequencies, and I post frequencies all the time that help alleviate parasites. So because they're a frequency and you're a frequency and they lower your frequency, you're trying to increase your frequency back to at least 7.5. That's where our homeostasis is. That's the whole thing that we're trying to do when we eat certain foods. We're trying to make your body at a pH balance, which is our homeostasis frequency. So if they're a low frequency, they're usually around like 3. So they're removing 3 to 4 points of your frequency down, and they can put you into a negative frequency. And so your purpose is trying to take herbs that will push your frequency back up, alleviating the ailments. You add in a sound frequency on top of that a few times a day. One, if you're not binding, you need to bind because you have disrupted them.
Mm.
And two, you add that in, it will make your cleanse a lot better because you're adding additional modalities. Like I listen to frequencies, I'm on my vibration plate, and I'm sitting in front of red light all at the same time to kind of maximize all of my biohack stacking. I also will do that in my HBOT because that's snuffing out, that's hyperbaric oxygen therapy, that's
Mm.
snuffing out their frequency. So there's ways that you can add where you won't have such a bad cleanse. But with my cleanse, it's not. I mean, I know you had a rough cleanse, Stephanie. I know your cleanse was a little rough, but that was because the herbs, right? It wasn't necessarily Parify, and you might have gone in a different way than you've ever done it before. If you've cleansed before, I'm a different mode. I'm directly into the bloodstream, directly in your mouth. It absorbs immediately. You get all the herbs. And the way we manufacture our products is so much different than any other products out there. We literally soak our herbs for 5 to 8 weeks in our manufacturing facility. We manufacture our own products in a 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility we built ourselves. We run all of this. No one in an outside source beyond Rogers Hood touches anything we do. And it's a different way for you to get the medicine. And then we double extract that. So not only are we soaking the herbs, but then we're making a tea. So you're getting two benefit ways to get the medicine out of the herbs. And that's a very unusual way. It's an old ancient way that we should be taking medicine. And so it can be a lot harder in a sense, but it's also a little more gentle in a lot of other ways.
And does it get easier over time? Like as you continue to cleanse, you won't see the same type of overwhelming response in terms of like if you do a parasite cleanse now, I'm sure it's a lot like you're not seeing as many parasites coming out of you as you once did. Or is it kind of just build up every time and you still have a reaction and a response?
Well, I do it often.
Yeah.
And when I eat questionably, so when I'm traveling, so I was traveling a lot at the beginning of the year. I ate some crab, I had some lobster. Like I can't get myself to eat salmon, which is my one of my favorite foods. It's kind of sad, but I don't eat a lot of raw produce. The one time I did this year, I got salmonella poisoning. So when I'm out beyond my house, I only eat raw produce inside of my house because I prep it the correct way. I'll take Parify Kit prior to eating, about 45 minutes to an hour before I eat to just help with inhospitability in my body. And that's a lot of reasons why other countries add certain foods on top of their food, like pumpkin seeds, because when it gets down inside of your gut, it makes it so they don't want to stay and it pushes them out. That's the thought process of why certain anti-parasitic foods go with other foods to assist with it not growing into your body.
Yeah, I heard that about like wasabi and salmon sashimi, right? Like
Yep.
kill off the parasite. So every time I eat sashimi, I'm like dousing it in wasabi. I mean, it's probably not the best quality wasabi too. You have to, yeah, I feel like, we have to really pay attention to quality of things too, because restaurants will cut corners in order to save money.
Yep.
A whole nother conversation.
But that's why I created the kit, Stephanie. To be honest with you, too, I went to these companies that I was going viral over for their parasite cleanse. It was like an Amazon thing. And I talked with them, and I'm on this. I want to know every single thing that's going into my body. I need to know transparency. I want to know what herbs you used. Is this lab or is this normal? Because when you're using natural ingredients, there's certain things that go along with it. So you're trying to adjust for any heavy metals because natural ingredients have that. Is it synthetic? And why are you using natural ingredients and not putting the ingredients for real on your labels? And why are you using caramel coloring? You don't need to do that with a tincture, right? And so when I couldn't get those answers, and I was kind of blown off. I was like, so I'm telling all of us that are trying to be in a much healthier wellness environment. We're all trying to get off of Big P back in 2020. We're all trying to do all these things, but you're not wanting to tell me what's in your kit. Okay, no worries. Totally understood. I'm going to just make it myself because I know how to do it, right? Not knowing that it was going to end up like this. But I mean, I'm so grateful. I love it. I love running Rogers Hood. It's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And I know this is my purpose. But when I asked and they came back and they were like, I mean, it's a patent natural ingredients. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Proprietary blend.
Totally. Totally.
No.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to know kind of how can we prepare properly for a cleanse? You said something about a lymph kit, so I want to hear more about that. And then I'm also curious about when we're going through the cleanse, what are the best considerations? I know that there's some, I want to talk diet around that. I think, as we alluded to earlier, like the diet can be a barrier of entry for some people. Like, I can't eat like that for a month. Like, forget it. I'm just not going to do it. So let's talk prep first. Like, how can we prepare? Like, if I'm going to do this again, and I want to have an easier time maybe than last, how can I prepare my body? And you have products that can help us do that.
I do. My products that I designed for the lymph drainage is I did this year. It just launched in May, so it's been a month. It's been out there for a month. But I struggle with my lymphatic as well. So we recommend doing the 3 Ps: peeing, pooping, and perspiring. And in order to do that, sometimes you need a little bit of assistance. Even when you're on the vibration plate, you're in a sauna, like I struggled sweating a lot in my life. And so that pathway is kind of closed down, and they'll find a way and a crazy way to escape. And so I created the lymph kit. The lymph kit is 3 tinctures. So you get into the system of Parify with the first 30 days. And so it's 3 tinctures and a binder, because I've heard from people that you can still pass worms, which I did not pass worms on my lymph kit, but I feel so much better when I take it. I take it every day, but you still can. So you still want to bind because there's antiparasitics still inside of the lymph tincture. So the first one helps with moving your lymphatic system, supporting your kidneys, draining your kidneys. And then the second tincture, the Holy Skull, protects your brain with lion's mane. So it drives all those herbs into healing your brain versus just band-aiding it. And I also put in cat's claw, which helps repair your DNA that's been damaged by all of these environmental toxins. So you're able to go in and do all of these things 30, 40 days prior to the Parify kit. And then you can keep taking these herbs during the Parify kit. And I found that the more supportive herbs you take while on a parasite cleanse, the easier the cleanse is and the less die-offs, the less escaping out your eyes, escaping out your nose, escaping out your skin, like in my case. It allows your body to adjust in such a different way than just hopping in. And Cellcore really does show that a lot with their products. They do multiple steps. That's like another parasite company, but they're all mostly pills. And so for me personally, pills was very hard. And so when you're looking at the different types of ways to do cleansing, the first thing is definitely trying to open that pathway. Using a lymphatic tincture is really great, and that's why I created this kit to help. And then it gets you in the system, right? You understand 3 times a day or 2 times a day, how do the tinctures feel? How do I fit this into my daily agenda? Because adding something new is tough. And we even changed the way we're having people take it because we wanted to make it a lot more simple. So it's just 3 times a day and bind at night. All 3 tinctures, 15 drops, 3 times a day and bind at night. And as far as the food goes, it is important to change your diet and to get yourself going. But like what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, it really is just important to get the herbs in you. And with kids, it's hard to change their food. The herbs are still going in and doing their job. They're still going straight into your bloodstream and working immediately, whether you change your food and you have a better cleanse because you changed it, or you just take the herbs and you see a difference. And then all of a sudden you have an epiphany and you're like, I really should be eating better. And that happens a lot with people.
Yeah. And so I'm curious about the diet that you have, your recommended diet. I actually didn't follow it because there's a lot of things. I feel like there's some different opinions when it comes to like what to eat when parasite cleansing. In my head, I'm thinking sugars are the enemy. So we want to keep sugars at bay, which for me looked like good quality protein and low starch vegetables essentially was my diet for the month. But you have things in there like oats, sweet potato. What are your thoughts on that? And why would you still include those things while parasite cleansing?
Well, our cookbook is a community cookbook, and it was so that people could get ideas and not be taken for such, like the word. I wanted to guide people. It's a guide, it's not a diet. It's a guide to help you understand what you should and shouldn't be eating. And I also picked the strictest diet, which is the Candida diet. And it's not my diet. I just literally was like, I'm just directing people. It was my number one requested thing when I started this 4 years ago when I went viral. Everybody's like, what do we eat? And it's like, well, here's the list to avoid. It's just an avoid. It's how you can tailor it to the most strict way, which is the Candida. Candida is the strictest diet. They have you basically eat nothing because you're trying to kill the Candida off. You're trying to weaken them so that when the herbs come in, they're working at the most optimal level. But since then, in the last 2.5 years, that I've done my own research for my own personal like guide of food, and it's a lot to write an ebook. I haven't had the time to write a second edition, which is what I've wanted to do. And I plan on doing it at the end by the end of the year. It's usually my Christmas gift to the community is to have a really great, robust cookbook. That's what we did last year. I've learned that we should have meat protein, that we should have a different level of protein while we're doing this for the information to, your body to work harder and not take so much energy. But it was just an easy guide to throw, and everybody kind of has just gone no meat in those 30 days, and no sugars, no carbs, but then it gives you ideas. That's all it is. And I think people have taken it as a gospel, and it's like, no, man, it's a guide. Like, I think it even says the guide to the cookbook. It's just
Yeah.
a guide. It's just for you to assist. Cause like for me, I can eat the same thing every day. I
Mhm.
don't really care about, like, I'm not good with food. I never have been. And so it's kind of hard to get into a rhythm. And so I wanted to give people an idea of what they could do and what they could use. And those are all approved Candida foods. Like, that's the strictest, is the Candida diet.
Yeah.
But as far as what I've learned in the last 2.5 years, because I've done a lot of mold cleansing, I had mold, I have Lyme, and I have parasites,
Oh.
I've learned exactly what I need to do for my body, and I share that with people.
What I'm hearing is like if you eat meat, if you're vegan, it doesn't really matter as long as you're eating as clean as you possibly can.
Yes.
And then going with that wave of those die off symptoms where it's going to be like you might experience the first week of really intense cravings, and then you'll start to actually crave foods that are better for your body because the parasites aren't running the show anymore.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And
That's
then like coming off of that cleanse, are there any tips that you have for best practices for like, afterwards? What do we do as we are recovering from a parasite cleanse? Do we keep taking any tinctures or do we just go back to life as usual?
I recommend two things. One, you can continue to take the lymph kit, which I love it. It has sustain. The support kit is our other kit that also has sustain in it. So the key tincture here is to take sustain every day. I take it every day. It literally sits next to me in my desk, because it is just a really great way to stay proactive versus being reactive. And that's what I'm trying to teach as I'm doing all of these things and educate, is that the more we stay proactive versus us as a society, which is what's happened to us, is that we're a reactive society. Oh, my heartburn's already there, right? So I'm going to take a pill to get rid of the heartburn that's already there. What can I do to not get that heartburn? That's the thoughts that we're trying to change. And then when I do have the heartburn, why did I get the heartburn? What made me get that heartburn? And is it a continuous issue? So it's really about being proactive. And one way to do that is you can take sustain every day. Every day it's my go-to. The lymph kit can be taken every day. It's why I introduced it. It's not a cleanse, it's a support kit. It helps you maintain the optimal level of your brain fog going away, any sort of parasites you could catch. Oregon grapefruit is an anti-parasitic. It's actually my favorite anti-parasitic that is out there in the world. It has usnea, which continues to keep, if you have viruses, it'll keep kind of keep them at bay and not have as a lot of symptoms. And then it also so like auto meaning when you have an autoimmune disease, your immune system goes up and down. It keeps it neutral.
Mm.
So a lot of us that have chronic illness and autoimmune disease like myself, it allows me to stay in a neutral set where my body is not overactive or underactive. So that is definitely something that when you're getting off a Parasite Cleanse, I give you more than 30 days so you can actually finish the bottles if you would like,
Mm.
or you have enough to do a spot check in between your every 3 months. I give you enough to do a 5 day over the full moon between your main cleanses. So there's a lot of things that you can do. If you know you're going to be going and eating that sushi or raw produce, take some Parafide Kit prior to doing it, like a half an hour, 45 minutes is a digestive aid. So there are ways that you can incorporate this parasite cleanse. It's more than just a cleanse into your body and into your daily life and allow you to continue to be inhospitable so that if you do, for me, I know the moment that my parasites that were harboring because they can go years undetected, right? You might not ever know you had a parasite until a life altering event happens to you and you're beyond stressed and you can't get your fight or flight under control and they thrive on that. And then you're like not only stressed, but you've now accumulated an autoimmune or chronic illness and it's not going away and no one can help you. And that's what happened to me in 2016.
Yes.
So I can pinpoint the moment that I was doing real well. I mean, I was a snowboarder, I was a roller derby girl, like I was very active. So when the picture I showed you when that happened to me, like it was detrimental to me and my husband. I worked 80 hours a week. I mean, I was a high achiever and to have my
Mhm.
life decline like that, there was one moment that my stress level was so beyond I couldn't get control and then they started to take over.
That's a really great point. Also, I think that one way or another, life is going to force you to slow down. For a lot of women, it's like menopause hits, and you're like, oh, I can't work 80-hour weeks anymore.
Yeah.
Be stressed out all of the time and be trying to like eat less and move more to as a weight loss tool, right? And so for your story, it's like you were burning the candle at both ends until your body just shut down in more ways than you could handle, which
Mhm.
led you to your purpose. So I think there's divinity in all of it, and that's just so beautiful. One thing I forgot to ask you about was fasting. Do you recommend fasting for like another tool in that parasite cleansing protocol?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more things you can do while supporting your body on a parasite cleanse, the better. Honestly, if you can fast, you want to do that. You want to do all of the modalities. And I have a fast track guide. I have a drainage guide. All of my ebooks are free. All my knowledge is free. That's kind of why my cookbook's still chilling. I haven't done anything yet because I write ebooks to help with drainage. I'm finishing up my mold ebook so that you can have a better understanding of mold cleansing. So I really like to give my knowledge away. And so one of the books that you can get that's free is the Fast Track Guide. And it talks about fasting. It talks about eating right. It talks about different modalities like vibration, sweating, sauna, all of those things of what you should be doing while you're parasite cleansing to support your body and to help with die off so that you don't have unusual situations stopping you from continuing the cleanse. Because once you start it, you really should do your best to finish it so that you get the full benefit as well as killing them off and not having them cause even more issues.
Absolutely. So maybe you can give us some links that we can put in the show notes so that
Yeah.
access some of these guides. And if someone wants to order a Parafy kit, I do have a code, which I'll also leave in the show notes. But where can we find you and how can we learn more?
You can find me on rogershood.com. That's my website. And then Mrs. Rogers Hood is my handles. And on IG, it's mrsrogers.hood. And that's MRSROGERSHOOD. You can also go on Google and Google Kim Worm Queen. I'll pop up with all my podcasts. So I got the Worm Queen crown because I didn't want to be known as the Worm Lady. That wouldn't be as fun.
Queen definitely fits much better.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that if you're listening, that you found this helpful and it leads you in the right direction to optimizing your health, losing the weight, and just feeling like the best version of yourself.
Thanks for having me.